Absolute ass. Blackhawks lose 5-1 to the Buffalo Sabres. That is now four straight losses, and they're now 0 for 3 on this final homestand of doom and despair. We got a collaborative postgame here with Ryan McGregor. Thank you so much for having me on here. I know we wanted to do this for a while, but yeah, I wish it could have been for a better game, though. To say this was a tough game to watch would be an understatement, and definitely not the end of this Blackhawks season I think we're hoping for here.
Yeah, this is not a fun game to dive into, so I'm glad I have someone to talk to because
Yeah,
normally doing these by myself after bad games like this, I just drive myself crazy. So I'm glad I have someone who can probably validate my feelings and opinions for this one.
exactly. Yeah, doing these post games and trying to like talk to yourself for 20 minutes, it's like it's hard to do it and not feel like a bit of a schizo. And especially after
Yeah,
games like this, where you're just absolutely blown out. It's like, oh, it could be a bit of a tough exercise. So, yeah,
yeah.
again, wish it could have been for a more cinematic game, but unfortunately, the way the season is ending, I don't think either of us are probably surprised here. So, yeah, tough game for the Blackhawks. I think it just should send a message to Kyle Davidson where it's like, I think it's just the difference between the way the Blackhawks are ending this season compared to the way they ended last season. It's just night and day. I mean, last year they injected the youth into the lineup, right? We saw Oliver Moore, Sam Renzel, Frank Nazar was coming into his own, right? We saw a lot, Ryan Green. We saw a lot to be excited about to end last year's Blackhawks season. Lev Shinab as well. Like a lot of these young guns playing very well. Bedard put his best hockey of the year towards the end of the season, right? This year, we injected a lot, even more youth into the lineup. We have the youngest team in the NHL, what average age of 25 years old, something like that. And it's been a much different story, right? We shipped out a lot of our remaining vets at the deadline, and it's been a tricky stretch of play to say the least. I mean, outside of let's say Anton Frundell, there's been very few bright spots to end this season. It's just like it just sucks to see that kind of contrast compared to last year. We ended the year strong. It gave us kind of momentum going into this season. We start off the year very strong this year. I think a big part of it was the way we ended last year. It's just I know we're in this spot here where it's like, yes, we clinched the second best draft lottery odds, and that's great, but it's like, okay, you still want to end this season strong. You want to have something to go into the summer. You want to have something to carry into next season. It's just, this is not the way you want to end a year, regardless of where you're at standings wise. Yeah.
Yeah, and securing that top four pick, it's all well and good, but at the end of the day, that's one new player coming to the team, and pretty much everyone else is already here, and the focus
Mm-hmm.
needs to be, how are they playing now in the NHL? A Gavin McKenna, a Stenberg, whoever we end up getting, great, but the bulk of the team is here now, and the fact that they're playing like this is really disappointing. And I think the difference is just that you mentioned that it's a lot more youth now than it was at
Mm-hmm.
the end of last season, and I think that heavily contributes to the type of hockey they're playing right now. Is it's like you said, the average age is what, 25. I mean, they're all
Mm-hmm.
kids, and I mean, look at Ryan Green before the Olympic break, just burnt out from the schedule, not having played, an 82 game season. And I think we're kind of seeing that across the lineup with Lardis as well. And
Mm-hmm.
even Nazar to an extent, he only played 56 last year. And I just think it's the schedule has caught up to a lot of these guys. And then you combine that with just the lack of veterans compared to last
Mm-hmm.
season. I think it's just a recipe for disaster. And I think it just shows us that going into next season, especially on the back end, you can't
Yeah.
have all kids. It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like the number one offseason priority for me is getting a solid top pair, veteran D-man back there, preferably in the 27 to 32 range, somebody in their prime. A guy like Rasmus Anderson, I think, would be an outstanding addition to the squad. Right shot, so I mean, that would force kind of a hand with Artie Renzel there, with Kreve back there as well on the right side. You might have to play Lepshinov and Rockford, but honestly, the way he played this year might be better off for him anyway than Dev Krasinski too. So I don't know what
It's
happens there,
debatable.
but yeah, it's debatable, right? So, but yeah, I think the
Yeah.
defense definitely needs a solid addition back there. You probably need a top six forward as well, first line player for Bedard, where that's a Matthew Nyes, J. Rob, Thomas, go down the list. You probably need somebody up there as well. Even if you get McKenna Stenberg, I think you need a solid addition up there as well. So top six forward, top four defenseman. At the very least, you need to make two solid additions there because it's like if you're Davidson here, he took over back in 2022, right? And he said he had a 5-year plan, a 5-year rebuild plan to kind of right this ship. I have a very hard time believing that his plan in the 26-27 season was to have another bottom three finish in the standings. So I think that the Blackhawks are, this time next year in a similar position. If God forbid this team is in the Landon DuPont race, I think we have to be asking serious questions, right? I think next season is the first season where there's some actual pressure in Davidson. Right? I don't think he's really had any pressure on him to this point. I think Danny Wirtz, management, ownership have been very patient with him. I've been patient. Most of us, I think, have been very patient. Right, yourself, right, Lee. Pretty much all us Blackhawks people for the most part. I trust the plan. I trust the process. I like a lot of the pieces we have here. We do have the best prospect pool in the National. I know people are kind of sick of hearing that, but it's true. But at the same time,
according to Scott Wheeler, number one.
At the same time, though, these guys are all 20 in their low 20s. They all still got to develop, right? So that's going to take time. It's not just going to happen through these young guys, right? You got to get established. You got to acquire those veterans to help bring these guys along. And right now, we don't have that.
Yeah, and I was having a conversation earlier today, and I said the exact same thing, that I've been so patient with this rebuild and excited for Davidson's plan. And all around, I like what he's done so far. But this is the year where, okay, now you've drafted everybody, you've got all the puzzle pieces. Now you just got to put everything together, and part of that is bringing in players from outside of drafting, whether it's trades or free agency. I mean, free agency is just not the same anymore, but it'll likely have to be a trade. But yeah, I think it has to be a defenseman. And I wonder about a forward. I mean, I obviously wonder who's going to be available, but I also wonder, like, you're going to have Oliver Moore back. You might have, a Stenberg or a McKenna next year. Kansterov is coming, and I think that's going to be a big addition. I know it's not a big name. It's not like a Matthew Nyes or a big trade piece, but I think it's going to be a big top six addition. And I know it's another kid, so it doesn't have that same effect. But, I wonder if he's going to go out and buy somebody like a top six winger. I also have concerns there because I feel like it's just going to clog up that forward core. I mean, you can make the argument Nick Lardis is a top six player. Frondell's going to be in the top six. Kansterov's going to be in the top six. Nazar, sure, you could put him down the third line, but you got Oliver Moore. I mean, he's not playing fourth line center. And then where's Ryan Green going to go? So I think for sure they need someone on the back end. And I'm curious how he's going to handle this forward dilemma. Maybe someone gets shipped off, as part of it.
I think that's what you're going to. I think, unfortunately, if you're going to make that addition, there's going to be some big pieces, some prospects. That's why you can't really get married to these guys, right? Because I think in order to bring in that, whatever player that is, insert X player here, you're going to have to make some sacrifices there. I think especially, you look at guys like Lardis, Green, Moore, like Boisvert. I have a hard time envisioning a reality where all of those guys are, going to be a part of this, core for the foreseeable future. I think probably one of those guys at least is on the move. Especially you look at a guy like Ryan Green, Oliver Moore. I mean, they're different players, but they kind of perform similar duties, similar roles. Lardis as well. I think he's got top six potential. I think that's going to be a future 30 goal scorer. But it's like you're adding Kansterov into this rotation. We might be adding McKenna Stenberg into this rotation as well. You got Frondell Bedard up there, Nazar. So it's like, then where is the room for him? Because Lardis isn't a bottom six player, right? So it's like, I think if you're going to bring in that veteran top six piece, you're probably going to have to give up multiple prospects plus draft capital to do it. But thankfully we have oodles of draft capital. What do we have? Like 15 top three, first 3-round picks over the next 3 years. That was word salad there. But we still have so much.
That sounds right.
We still have so much draft capital to work with. We've already made 11 first-round picks the last 4 seasons. So it's like we have all this draft capital. We have this massive prospect pool. We're going to have estimated $40 million of cap space to work with this summer. Yes, a lot is going to go towards Bedsy, Mikheyev, but it's like you're still going to have tons to work with. There's no excuse this summer for Kyle, to not make things happen.
Yeah, I mean, you've got not only the draft capital, but you've got an overflow of prospects in every position, goaltending even, with, there's no reason it shouldn't get done. And I'm in the same boat as you where no pressure on him up until this offseason. What he does this offseason is it's either going to put him on a pedestal or light a fire under his ass or under his hot seat is what I'm trying to say. I can't speak either today. Apparently,
No, all good. I think watching
sentences
this
aren't forming
Blackhawks
right
team,
now.
I think this Hawks team has rotted our brains. I think watching this team, but
Yeah,
you did bring
I
up
think
Oliver
so.
Moore. I will say I do think this team has been really missing him this last
Yeah,
push of the season because if you had Oliver Moore here, he would be the third line center right now, which should allow you to play Nazar in the top six. I think we should still be playing Nazar in the top six anyway.
yeah.
I think we could just put. I know Blashill loves Ryan Green up there at Bedard. I just think Green, he'd be better suited to be a third line, defensive shutdown forward, kind of similar to that Jason Dickinson mold, right? I know me and Lee have had
Yeah.
some disagreements on that one, but I think Ryan Green is a bottom six player. I like him. I just don't think he should be playing first line Bedard. There's no reason why at this moment of time, Bedard, Frundell, and Nazar should all be separated and not be playing together.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about Green. Like, I do think he's destined on a good team. He's going to be a bottom six guy, absolutely. But he's a great utility player. I mean, you get hit with injuries or situations like that. It's good to know that he can handle a role in
Yeah.
the top six. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think down the line he's definitely going to be a bottom six player. And like you're saying about separating Bedard, Frondell, and Nazar for the remainder of this season. Like, I understand wanting to try it because now's the time to try it. And I'll be honest, like, I've been really impressed with Frondell driving his own
Oh,
line
yeah, he's been
on the second
fantastic.
line. I mean, that's been great to be able to see that. But I think next year, especially with Oliver Moore coming back, and we know he plays his best hockey when he's at center, and
Mhm.
Jeff Blashill knows that too. Um, you got to have one of those guys, Nazar, Frondell, with Bedard. I think going into next year. The question is just who. But I also think Roman Kantsarov is going to be a perfect player with Bedard too. So then maybe you factor in who's going to play better with him as well.
Yeah, that is a question mark, right? Who's gonna be the second line center, Frundell or Nazar? Kantsev, you have to think probably first line wing, could be second line wing, but I think if you move Frundell up there, you got. I think in my projections, I have Frundell playing with Bedard in the first line, then I Kantsev playing with Nazar in the second line. That's probably how I'd do it, and then Lardis more together in the third line. Those two showed some pretty good chemistry when they played together, midway through the season. So that's probably how I'd draw it up there. I think that would be a nice,
Yeah, I
nice
like
kind
that.
of duos to work with there. Another note that I didn't like, it's kind of a more minor thing, but why is Sasha Boisvert scratched in this game? It's the third time he's been scratched since he's been
Yeah.
signed, and we're playing Dominic Toninato over a first round pick in this game. That's an interesting decision there.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. And
Yeah.
I've loved what Jeff Blash outside of the Burakovsky thing. That's been everyone's gripe with him. Outside of that, I've really enjoyed what Jeff Blashill's done this year. But I don't understand. Like, I get Boisvert's not going to play every game. That's what you do with a kid. I understand it, but every second game he's getting scratched here. He can't get a consecutive game, and he hasn't played bad. I didn't like his first couple of games in the NHL, but since then, he's been fine. Like, if you're gonna take this final stretch of hockey to experiment with taking everybody off of Bedard's line and having everyone drive their own line, why can't you experiment playing Boisvert? I don't understand that consistency. There's been some questionable decisions in the final stretch here. A few shifts today, you had Burakovsky back with Bedard. I
Yeah,
mean,
what was that? What
I
was
don't
that?
understand. There was one shift of Frondell up there, and that was it. And then back to Burakovsky.
That just drives me
Ridiculous.
nuts, man. It's like Frundell's been up here, 11 games now. He's played 3 of them Bedard, 8 of them away from Bedard. I get, giving him a look at center, and to be fair, you're absolutely correct. He's looked great there. If not, I think he's probably looked better at center than wing, but he's also had a lot more time there. Actually, in Sweden, he's
Yeah.
actually played mostly in the wing, so it's like, I wish we give him more time at Bedard. They're at least playing together on the power play. Yeah, to be fair, Bedard, Frundell, and Nazar are at least playing together on the power play, that all-4 power
Yeah,
play
how
they've
do
been
you feel
experimenting
about the
with.
five-man power play?
I liked it at first, but of late
Yeah.
it's been a struggle to say the least. Because here's the problem: when you lose that first face-off, and then you spend the rest of the power play trying to enter the zone and get set up, then
Yeah.
it's just 2 minutes of the Hawks retrieving the puck from their own zone. I saw Greg Boyson tweet that. That was very funny. But yeah,
Yeah.
the power play's been a struggle the last few games, to say the least. It looked great in that
Yeah.
Sharks game last week, but since then it's been a struggle. So I'm not sure if they try to run that again next year. If they just go back to 4 forwards, 1 defenseman, then who quarterbacks the power play. Then if it's not Bedard, which
Yeah.
defenseman takes the role. I think they envisioned Renzel doing that this year, but he hasn't quite had the season that we expected. I think he played so well towards the end of last year. I think it gave everybody unrealistic expectations that he'd be a Calder
Yeah,
threat this year.
definitely.
Still think there's a very good defenseman there, but clearly he's still got ways to go. So yeah, but whether it's him, Artie, probably not. Probably not the way he's looked quarterback in the power play this year. So maybe that's where
Yeah.
Korchinski can finally take that spot, right? But I think there's still question marks over his future here, although he has looked a bit better here towards the end of the season. But yeah, that's another question mark
Yeah.
too. Is like that decor, right? There's still a lot of question marks there, a lot of potential, but yeah, like you said earlier, I think if we run, an entire season with Alex Vlasic being your oldest defenseman at 25, you're going to get cooked. Not even Spencer Knight can save that decor. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And like the power play today too, I think it was their second goal on the power play. No, sorry, yeah, it was their second goal on the power play. They were 1 for 7 on entries, and they only tried to dump it in once. Like the entry's so frustrating, and on top of that, like when you have 5 forwards, I understand wanting to have Bedard quarterback it. You want the puck on Bedard's stick on the power play, but he's not a threat from the top of the slot. Like he feeds. Frondell got a great one-timer. That's great. He'll pass the puck to Nazar, who, by the way, Nazar couldn't receive a pass to save his life today.
Yeah, he was rough in this one.
Yeah, but Bedard is just, it's almost, I feel like, had the opposite effect where Bedard is not a threat on the power play anymore unless he moves, which he doesn't do it that often on the power play since he's been quarterbacking. He's not a threat. And other teams now, when they get the puck, they're rushing it because they know it's a forward back there. Like you said, it looked good in that San Jose game, but from the jump, I haven't really been a fan of that 5-forward power play. Give Rinzel the shot. I mean, Levshinov had it until he got hurt. You got to give Rinzel the shot.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Renzel probably of the defenseman back there has the most capabilities in that front. Maybe a guy like Wyatt Kaiser, he's still good at walking the blue line. I'm surprised they haven't given him a few more looks in the power play. He's quarterback the second unit occasionally in this season, but I'm surprised a guy like Kaiser. I know he's more known for his defensive play, but I think a guy like that, if his skating could be a good he could be an option there. But they haven't really.
I'm surprised we haven't seen that. At least on the second unit, I'm surprised.
Yeah, Blackhawks focus was confused by that as well. I know he's been campaigning for that for a while, but they haven't really been doing it. Yeah, which is definitely
even if you had like when they were running Levshinov on the first unit, even if they could have had Rinzel and Kaiser on the second unit or something, I don't know. I'm surprised as well they didn't try it.
I will say it is a bit confusing for me. Like, this is the youngest team in the NHL. Like, you'd think they'd have, like, the energy in the tank to kind of end the season strong, but I guess that just goes to show experience. Like you said, a lot of these guys, the Hawks have the most rookies in the NHL, right? So it's like a lot of these guys aren't used to the NHL workload, which is considerably more than the junior college, minor league workload in terms of games played and just the travel and all the practices. Like, you hardly have a day off. So I shouldn't be surprised that's catching up to them, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I think we should probably have the energy for it. We had a month-long Olympic break, so I see that as less of an excuse this year. It is frustrating, to see us kind of limping to the finish here. Yeah.
Does the end of this season affect your expectations for next season at all?
That's a good question. I haven't forgotten the way we started this season, right? It's like when we had that offseason to work with, look how Bedard was absolutely flying to start the season. Second half of the year hasn't been quite the same. Since he's come back from injury, it hasn't quite been the same for him, right? But I think if he could have another strong offseason start next year like he did this past year, the way him and Spencer Knight were absolutely, to be fair, look, we were getting some PDO luck, to be fair, and I think those two were definitely getting us wins we probably shouldn't have been getting, but I still have hope that we can start next season off strong, right? I think you got to give these guys a summer. Ben Pope kind of talked about in his article, right? Like, we don't know how much better all these guys are going to get, right? We don't know how much better Lars is going to get, right? His first full season. We don't know how much better Artie Rinzel are going to get, right? Katsuk coming in. We don't know the impact he's going to have a full season of Frondell. So I think there's still a lot of hope, optimism that, obviously not all these young kids are going to, make those improvements overnight, but a lot of them are going to get considerably better with a summer to work with, and which gives me hope that we could start next season off, in a similar way that we did this past season, but hopefully with better health, hopefully better health concerns, right? I hate to play the hypothetical game, but I think about it all the time, man. How much different does the season go if Bedard and Nazar don't get injured for a month? It's that. Look, we were in a playoff spot.
Yeah.
That happened, and the rest of the season has been the usual draft lottery, tanking for McKenna, pull shit that we've been used to the past 4 years, right? But yeah, that was a long drink of water to say. Not really. Like, I still think despite this finish of the season, I still have hope, and with, strong offseason, hopefully from Kyle, if he can make the right moves, like, I still have hope that we can have, a decent start to next season. But it worries. It causes a bit of worry. I'd be lying if I claimed I'm not a bit concerned the way we're ending this season. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. And like you said, the start of this season, it's easy to forget because it's been
Mhm.
so difficult since. And yeah, the PDO, it told the story of it's not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
But they were playing just a different brand of hockey. They were playing that feisty, winning brand of
Mhm.
hockey that Jeff Blashill preaches, and they were getting the best effort every night out of all the players. Um, and I think that's sustainable. But the way I view this season is it's kind of been three different seasons. Like you have the first 2.5 months or so of the year where they're fighting for a playoff spot. The vibes are high, right? The everyone's playing to expectation. Knight's a solid starting goalie. Bedard is top five in points. Um, and then you have the injuries. You have Bedard and Nazar, obviously the most notable ones. They go down. There's a bit of crossover there. Bedard misses 13 games. And I've said it doesn't matter what team you are, rebuilding or contender. You lose your top two centers for a month, it's going to wreck a part of your
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with the fact that there's such a young team, you get into now that kind of third portion of the season where Bedard and Nazar come back. Neither of them kind of look the same. Then you get the long break of no hockey for them for a month or whatever it was. And then you come back and, well, the season's almost over. We're out of the playoffs. We're fighting an uphill battle now to get back to what we were before. And now before you know it, the season's over. So I think it sounds, obviously, people are going to say, oh, you're Hawks fans. Of course you're going to say that. But I think it's reasonable to say, what if those injuries didn't happen? And I think that's going to be the story for next year is, okay, obviously you don't expect those injuries to happen. So how far can you take it?
That's the difference too, because like look what led. We come right back from this Olympic break here, then boom, it's a trade deadline as well, and you just ship out
Yeah.
your entire leadership core as well. That's the thing too. Like we have an entirely different leadership core as well now with Bedard, Bertuzzi. Well, they're the only two of A's right now. Next season you got to think Bedard's the captain, and the alternates Bertuzzi and probably one of Vlasic Nazar if I had to guess. So that makes a difference too. It's kind of different. Voice in the room right now, kind of getting used to that. The absences of Foligno, Dickinson, Murphy. Maybe it doesn't affect you too much on the ice, but I think just off the ice and in the room, the effect those guys has. I'm sure it's something for the young guys to get used to. And yeah, I think a lot of the play we were seeing, to be fair, down the season is a byproduct of a young team. The reason we're seeing so many
Yeah.
turnovers and a young defense getting outshot every game, kind of outplayed. I think a lot of it is just experience and kind of or lack
Yeah.
thereof. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, I think, you get the Blackhawks rebuild compared a lot to obviously San Jose. Anaheim is in there too. And the kind of asterisks I always put on that is the Hawks are so much younger
Mhm.
than either of those two teams. Like you look at the amount of players that are 22 and under that have never played a full professional season. I mean, it makes sense that even without the injuries, it makes sense that those teams are seeing kind of results in the standings faster when you surround them with good veteran players. And you have a good mix because right now it's all young guys, and that's not a recipe for success. So I get it's the long game. Kyle Davidson's playing the really long game here. Um, but there's still so much to be excited about too. I mean, all these guys individually are going to be such good hockey players, and this team is going to be a lot of fun to watch for a decade plus, I would think. Unless management makes a lot of bad decisions. But
Yeah.
with the pieces we have now, if you can just fill the gaps the right way, this team's going to be good for a long time. It's just those growing pains right now.
Absolutely, yeah. I think if there was one negative to the way we start out the season, I do think it gave us maybe a bit unrealistic expectations for the rest of the year, right? And it's kind of made the second half of the year, tougher from that standpoint. It's just such a contrast from the start of the year. Like you said, it
Yeah.
really is a tale of two seasons, right? But no, I still believe in the process. I still believe this team has a bright future. Nothing's really changed there, but it's not always a linear path. Sometimes it's a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
We're kind of seeing that right now. But hey, look at the team we played tonight, right? The Sabres. It took a long time for them. Hopefully, it doesn't take us 14 years like it took for them.
Oh,
but hey,
man.
that they're in the playoffs
I
now.
hope not.
And look at the way they didn't start the season off too hot, right? I mean, when they played us back in November, I believe they were below 500, right? They made that general manager change, and since
Yeah.
then, well, they blew us out in November, and that seemed to be what our seasons kind of, shifted, right?
Yeah.
Because the Hawks from October to November were great. The rest of the year has been a bit tougher. The Sabres struggled those first 2 months, and the rest of the year they've been one of the hottest teams in the NHL. But it just goes to show it's a young Sabres team. They didn't really make a lot of changes there, right? But a lot of the young players, core players they had, have just just gotten better. It suddenly clicked,
Yeah.
and boom, look at where they're at now. So I'm not saying next year's just going to be a magical, like everybody just figures it out and suddenly we're a playoff team. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, like these things do tend to turn around quicker than you expect. So I think a lot of how next season goes, just it hinges on getting off to another hot start and hopefully getting some better health luck this time around, right? But I don't think, like I said, though, I don't think you could just hinge on what we already have. I think you're going to have to bring in some help as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're not too far off, and this might sound crazy, but I think you're not too far off on saying, they're going to be that good next year. They're going to make the playoffs. We're at such a crucial intersection right now where there's a couple different ways Kyle Davidson could go. But I feel like if he does make that ad on the back end, if he does make that top 6 forward ad, and then another crucial piece is if we do see a step forward from all these young guys, I don't think it's crazy to think this team could be in the playoff hunt next year. It hinges on adding the right players and those young guys like the Oliver Moores, Nick Lardis, Frank Nazar. Consistency is a huge thing with Nazar. All those guys taking a step together. But I'm still optimistic, but there's just a lot has to go right for that to happen.
Yeah, I think playoffs is possible, but like you said, pretty much everything has to go right. I wouldn't be surprised if we're still maybe a year away. I do think they have to be in the race next year, though. Like, we can't be talking about, we can't be talking about the 2027, draft pros, top 10, scouting report this time of the year. We have to be playing meaningful games. I don't want to see us selling at the deadline, right? We have to be in the race, I want to see a 07-08 type season next year, right? It's kind of what we had for the first few months this year. I want to see that for a full year next year. If you make the playoffs, great. If not, if you're just barely missing and you're seeing that progression and we're knocking the door, but you can tell like we're going to be in the mix, moving forward. I think that's a pretty successful season. You cannot, I repeat, cannot be in this position again next year.
Yeah.
If you are,
hey,
I think,
if they finish 500 next year, I'll be celebrating. Like that'll be, oh my God, like it's happening. They're making that step. What I'm really waiting for is that Maple Leafs 16-17 season where like it was Matthews' rookie year. We had Nylander, Marner, this exciting young core. They broke through. They made the playoffs. And they lost in round 1, but you're like, wow, the future is so bright. Obviously, I hope that's where the comparison ends. But I'm waiting for like that season,
right?
I'm waiting for that year of like, okay, they're here. Like they're ready,
Yeah, and I think, I know everybody's going to be doom and gloom to end the season, and I get it. But at the same time, it's like, it's modest improvement, but we still did improve. I mean, we're 9 points better than last year. Same 31st place in the standings, but it's not like we're light years off a lot of these teams in terms of points. I mean, parity in the NHL has never been higher. It doesn't help the Hawks that they play in the Central and the Sharks play in the Poverty Pacific, but, we can't control that. But, I mean, what? I mean, we have 52 points Bedard's rookie year, 61 this year, 70 this year. So, I would hope for a bit more than another 9-point jump next year. If you can make it's asking for a lot, but if you can make a 20-point jump, you're in the 90-point range, like you're in the playoff conversation. Like I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But you 28 wins, you got to find quite a few more than that.
Yeah, I agree. At the very least, you need a significant step forward next year. And like I said, if they're 500, I'll be celebrating. I mean that's a win because you're right. Rebuilds absolutely aren't linear. It's really rare that you get a team, drafting in the basement of the NHL for a few years in a row, and then all of a sudden, snap the fingers, next year they're in the playoffs. I mean, that just doesn't happen, and especially the way Kyle Davidson is going about it. He's going about it the slow, painful, completely, down to the studs rebuild, right? So
scorched earth rebuild, right? And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a very interesting draft, man. I'm just praying. I'm praying for a top 2 pick. I think a lot of these worries will be alleviated if you throw McKenna Stenberg on this team next year. I think those odds go way up if it's a number 3, number 4 pick. This is another topic of discussion, but do you take a defenseman or do you consider trading that pick to establish, to acquire a core, star piece that can help us win right now? That's a debate for another time, though. Yeah.
That's an hour-long conversation there of what ifs.
Yeah, we could talk about that all day. Yeah, we'll have a long time to talk about that depending on what happens.
Yeah.
May 5th, right? May 5th is draft lottery day, so that'll be a big day. That'll be a big day. Yeah.
I do have one note about the game, actually. I realize we haven't talked about the game this whole time.
We can talk about the game a bit, yeah.
One positive I will take away is the Korchinski-Del Mastro pairing was analytically good tonight. Like they had a 68 and a 60% Corsi for, 13 to 6 for and against. I've liked how Korchinski's looked since he came up here. It's hard for him to look good being on the third pair, playing with a Sam Lafferty last game.
That's
like,
the only game he didn't look good was when he played with Sam Lafferty. I think we can excuse him for that one. Otherwise, I think since he's been called back up, it's probably the best hockey he's played as a Blackhawk. So, that's a guy I think maybe a lot of us wrote off a bit prematurely. I know Mark Lazarus wrote a nice article about him. It's easy to forget he's just now played his 100th game in NHL. He's 21 years old. He's still very young. So that's a guy that gives me some hope where it's like if he could take that next step next year, then that's going to help out the D-Corps considerably next year, right? Artie's injuries is unfortunate, but I honestly think the way his season was going, I think he kind of needs the offseason anyway. So
get to the offseason now.
But Korchinski's play has been a positive. There's been a lot of positives of late, but I think he has been one of them. I would agree. Yeah.
And the fact too that he's looked good getting bottom pair minutes and not playing on the power play. That is something I go back to the Jeff Blashill critiques. Yeah. Why hasn't he seen power play time yet? He's the most offensive defenseman you could probably say that we have. Why isn't he getting power play time? It's baffling me, especially with Levshinov gone now.
Especially with all this talk about, this is the time of year to experiment, and why aren't we experimenting that? I don't know. That is a question mark. I think it'd be worth trying out because that is kind of, I think when Davidson drafted Korchinski, that's kind of where he envisioned him being your power play quarterback of the future, and he's hardly played there. So that is interesting.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, they looked good in the first 15 minutes. That's all I got for positives, really.
Green shorthanded goal, you take that, right? I mean, good for him. The penalty kill was good. That's been, one of the few strengths. It's crazy this team has, the number 2 ranked penalty kill. It's had the number 1 ranked penalty kill for most of the season, which I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, how many times in history have we seen a team with a, best penalty kill unit in the league and they missed the playoffs? It's got to be a rarity. But yeah, that's been a positive, and we'll see with a younger unit next year if they can keep that up, right? Because it's still been pretty good post-trade now that even losing guys like Dickinson, Murphy, it's still been pretty good. Maybe dropped a little bit, but not too much. But that'll be something to watch next year because it has been a kind of a tale of two special teams this year, with the penalty kill and power play just being on complete opposites. Yeah.
This team has the potential and the pieces too to have such a lethal power play, especially like you said, if you get a top 2 pick this year. And I mean, Gavin McKenna's elite on the power play. You add that to this team, even without him, this team has all the pieces to have a top power play in this league.
Yeah, I mean, Bedard, McKenna, Frundell, Nazar, like if you're 4 forwards out there, and then I don't know whoever quarterback, we still got to figure out quarterbacks at power play. Take your pick of that defense, and you gotta. It should be a dangerous unit there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, how about you? I don't really know how much more I have to say about this game. I mean, I only have much more notes on this game. I don't think either of us really want to talk about the actual game much for this one. I think more big picture talk, I think, is more important for a game like this. And thankfully, the way the season is ending, we only have one more Hawks game left, Wednesday versus Sharks. I sincerely hope we have left something in the tank for that game. You have one more game left to show us something, Jeff, to show us what this team can and will be. So against a Sharks team that we've been compared to all season and really throughout this rebuild, thankfully they're missing the playoffs too, at least. So we'll be meeting up on the golf course. So Bedard Celebrini, golf course battle will be cinema. But I really hope that we've left something in the tank for that game. Yeah.
And with the way this year has ended, the bar for success right now is so low that if they just win the last game, it'll add so much to the offseason of like, all right, it'll heal so much of this final stretch.
We could just end it with a win for the rest of the summer, man.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see Bedard own Celebrini. I want to see Smith, not Smith. Nazar own Smith. I want to see Frundell own Misa. I want to see Knight own Askarov. Just give me that, man. Give us something, to go into the summer with. Yeah.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Oh, crap. My camera's, what the heck happened here? I don't know what happened to my cam. Oh, crap. We've almost gone through this whole thing without an issue, right? Let's see if I can switch to, I don't know what the hell is going on here. Jesus. Oh, crap. Damn it, man. What the hell has happened here?
Well, I guess we can we can wrap it up then. Right? We lost Justin.
You'll have to end it without me, yeah.
Yeah. I take questions from Twitter after every game. Let me see. I think I got a couple. We could probably quickly tag team them if you want.
Yeah, sure.
I always post after every game on Twitter. I post any questions for the post game, and it looks like we got a few for today. I'll read them out here. All right, Jason says he has a few here. I'll rattle them off, and then you can answer whatever one you want.
Sure.
Why is Nazar making 6.5? Why is Renzel still on the team? Why is Blashill still coaching? How do we not score 5v3? And how is Burke still in the NHL, let alone Chicago? Take your pick.
Well, first of all, the Nazar one, I'd actually like to counter there. He isn't making $6.5 billion yet. That contract doesn't kick in until next season, so he's still on his ELC. And hey, like I think even if he was making 6.5 right near, I think 15 goals, 26 assists, 41.65 games. And look at the way he started the year, man. I think he got injured, that kind of hurt his season a bit. Went through a drought, had a really strong month of March. I mean, he's point per game in the month of March, and he was rewarded in the month of April. He got the Connor Bedard experience playing with Andre Burakovsky this past month, so that way blame on him. So yeah, it's been up and down.
And his face has taken a beating on two separate occasions.
He's lost 2 of his teeth as well. So I think Nazar, it's a sophomore season, right? We saw Bedard go through his ups and downs in his sophomore year, right? So I see no reason to tweak about Nazar. That's the only question I remember.
Agree.
That was the first one that came to my mind. I do agree with you, though. I mean, the 5-on-3 was an absolute joke. That was an embarrassment. You have 1 minute, 11 seconds of 5-on-3. You better score on it. And power play was a disaster.
There's just there was no eagerness to shoot the puck. Like, they had 1 shot in the second period.
They just kept deferring. Yeah.
Yeah. Pass first mentality from everybody tonight.
Just a refusal to drive the net. Yeah, that was
your camera's dead, my computer's dying. We'll wrap this thing up here.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think that must be a sign.
This has been as chaotic as the game.
Yeah, that must be a sign to call it here. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. This has been a blast. I'm sure the viewers will have enjoyed this one, so we'll have to do it again next season.
Absolutely, for sure. We'll do some more collabs in the future. And keep doing what you're doing. You've been tremendous work there. I know you just passed 300 subs, so we'll do plenty more in the future. And we're all in this together, man. We're all in this ship together.
We have to be. If we're gonna survive it, we have to be.
Exactly. Yeah.